Mom, we're not coming down this year. Please stop asking. My son said it calmly, like he was reading a weather report. I was standing in my kitchen with the phone pressed to my ear, one hand on the wall calendar where I had circled the date in red. It wasn't the first time he said it. There was a pause, the kind where you hope the other person will rush in and fix what they just broke. Michael, I asked, is it really that hard to come for one weekend? He sighed. I could picture him rubbing his forehead the way he did when he was a teenager. Mom, the roads are a mess, Noah has soccer, Laura's schedule is crazy. It's just easier if we stay here. We'll call you. We'll FaceTime, okay? Easier, that word sat between us like a closed door. I looked at the little dining table where I had already laid out the good tablecloth, just to see if it still fit. I had pulled the extra chairs out from the corner, tested how many bodies I could squeeze around that small room. It had felt silly and hopeful at the same time. Right, I said. Of course. You're busy. The kettle clicked off behind me. The refrigerator hummed. My son kept talking, explaining, stacking excuses one on top of another like dishes in the sink. I heard words like tired and too much driving and maybe next year. The whole time, I stood there with my fingers resting on that red circle on the calendar, as if I could press the day back into existence. He finished with, love you, Mom, the way people add a polite phrase at the end of an email. We hung up. The kitchen went very quiet. I walked over to the table and pushed the extra chairs back against the wall. The tablecloth looked too fancy for one person. I folded it slowly, smoothing out each crease, pretending it didn't matter. At that moment, I thought the worst part was hearing my son refuse to visit his own mother. Back then, I hadn't seen the photo yet. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, stay with me, you need to hear what happened next. The days after that phone call moved slowly, like a heavy cart on a cold road. I kept finding small signs of my own foolish hope. A bag of cranberries in the freezer. A note that said, buy extra napkins. A list of dishes I had written in my careful block letters, turkey, mashed potatoes, Noah's favorite mac and cheese. I crossed each thing off the list, not because I had done them, but because I knew I would not. Sarah called a few days later. How are you, Mom? She asked. Her voice was warm, but I could hear the background noise of her own life, Emma laughing, Mark asking where his keys were. I'm fine, I said. It'll be quiet this year, that's all. Is Michael coming with Noah? She asked. No, I replied. He's busy. They'll FaceTime. I tried to make my voice light, as if it were a small thing. As if this was what I had wanted all along. Sarah sighed. He means well, Mom. You know how he is. He gets overwhelmed. I know, I said. He gets that from me. That was not true. When I was overwhelmed, I still cooked the meal, still packed the lunch, still stayed up with the sick child. But I said it anyway. It was easier to make a joke about myself than to admit that my heart was sore. Thanksgiving came. I roasted a small chicken because a whole turkey felt ridiculous for one. I set one extra plate at the table, even though I knew no one would sit there. Old habits are stubborn. They cling to us like cobwebs. I turned on the TV, more for noise than anything. Every commercial was about families gathered around long tables, laughing, passing bowls overflowing with food. No one ever showed the woman eating alone at the little table with the chair pulled out for no one. I thought that was the worst of it. The empty chair. The quiet house. The phone that lit up for sales messages and political calls, but not for my son. I was wrong. A few days after Thanksgiving, Sarah came by with Emma. They brought leftovers in plastic containers, even though I had my own. Emma ran around the apartment, inspecting everything as if I had redecorated since last week. Grandma, she said, why is there only one chair at your table now? I looked at the single place setting I had left. I had put the extra chairs back against the wall. It's easier to keep the floor clean this way, I said. But when everyone comes, I pull them out again. Everyone. As if that still happened. Sarah sat on the sofa scrolling through her phone while Emma built a small city with my coasters and napkin rings. Did Michael ever call you on Thursday? She asked, without looking up. He sent a text. They were busy, I said. Sarah bit her lip. Have you been online today? She asked. Online? I repeated. I had a little laptop on my desk, but I mostly used it for paying bills and looking up recipes I never cooked. On Facebook, she said. Never mind. You don't use it much, right? She hesitated just a second too long. My stomach tightened. What is it? I asked. Show me. Mom, I don't want to upset you. Show me, I said again. My voice surprised both of us. Sarah sighed and turned her phone toward me. It's just, everyone posts pictures. It doesn't always mean anything. On the screen was a photograph. There was my son, standing in front of a long table. The tablecloth was festive, printed with little autumn leaves. Behind him were smiling faces. I recognized Laura, my daughter-in-law, and their son Noah, taller than the last time I had seen him in person. Around them stood Laura's parents, her sister, a cluster of cousins I had never met. Every chair at that table was filled. The caption read, "So grateful to have all our family together this year." All our family. My thumb shook as I held the phone. At first, I thought perhaps it was an old photo. Maybe from before Noah was born. Maybe from some year when I truly did not expect an invitation. But then I saw the little date on the photo. This year. Thursday. Noah wore the sweater I had mailed him last month, the one with the navy and gray stripes. I had imagined him wearing it at my table. Maybe he meant her side, Sarah said quietly. Her family. He wrote all our family, I whispered. My throat felt tight. I guess he forgot I read English. I stared at the picture until the faces blurred. The lamp beside me hummed. I could hear Emma making little car noises on the rug, oblivious to the fact that a whole country had just opened up in my chest. Mom, Sarah said, I'm so sorry. Michael can be thoughtless. He doesn't always see what things look like. Oh, he sees, I said softly. He chose where to be seen. I handed the phone back and stood up to take our empty cups to the sink. My hands moved on their own. Rinse, stack, wipe. It was comforting, the old dance of dishes. Inside, something small and solid broke. That night, I lay awake long after the apartment had gone dark. The ceiling above me was cracked in a thin, wandering line. I followed it with my eyes the way a child might follow a river on a map. I kept seeing that caption. All our family together this year. If that was all, then what was I? For a while, I blamed myself. I replayed every conversation with Michael from the past few years. Had I nagged too much? Criticized his parenting? Talked too often about my aching knees and my doctor's appointments? Maybe I had been too available. Always offering to babysit, to loan money, to cook, to dog sit, to water plants. Maybe I had made it too easy for him to see me as part of the furniture. I thought that photo was just another wound. I would later realize, it was also the beginning of something else. The next morning, I made a cup of tea and sat at my small kitchen table. For the first time in a long time, I opened the drawer where I kept my old documents. Bank statements. Insurance. My will. I spread them out like a different kind of family portrait. I did not have much. A modest savings account. The little apartment. Some small investments my husband and I had made long ago, back when we both believed we would live forever. For years, my plan had been simple: everything to the children, divided fairly. Of course it would be. Of course they would care for me in return. Of course I would spend my old age bouncing between their houses, always welcome, always needed. Of course can be a dangerous phrase. That week, I went to the bank. The young woman at the desk called me Ms. Carter and offered me water. She printed things, explained accounts, circled numbers. For the first time, I asked real questions. What happens if I need to move into assisted living? I asked. What if I need help, but no one can take me in? She answered kindly, matter-of-factly, as if she had heard many older women ask the same thing. On the way home, I stopped at the community center. I had walked past the bulletin board many times without really seeing it. This time, I read every flyer. There was a quilting circle on Thursdays. A grief support group. A women's Bible study with coffee and cookies. A line that said, "No one has to sit alone." I tore off a little tab with a phone number. At first, it felt like I was cheating on my own family. As if stepping into any life that did not revolve around their schedules was some kind of betrayal. But I also remembered that photo, all those smiling faces. No one had saved a chair for me there. Maybe it was time I saved a chair for myself. I went to the quilting group. I am not a good quilter. My stitches are too tight in some places, too loose in others. But no one seemed to mind. There were other women my age and older, and a few younger ones who liked old-fashioned things. We sewed, we drank coffee, we complained about our backs and laughed about our mistakes. One woman, Helen, told me, "My son lives 3 states away. His wife likes to host. I used to cry every Christmas. Then one year, I decided, if they have a life, I can have one too." She said it lightly, but I heard the weight underneath. Does it get easier? I asked. Helen looked at her crooked patchwork and smiled. It gets clearer, she said. That's something. Back at home, the photo still floated in my mind, but it did not sting as sharply. I started writing in a notebook after dinner. Not long entries. Just a few lines about my day, about how I felt, about what I wanted. One evening, my phone rang. It was Michael. "Hey, Mom," he said. "Sorry I haven't called. Things have been insane." "They always are," I said. My voice was calm. "How are you?" We talked about his job. About Noah's soccer team. About Laura's migraines. Then there was a small pause. "I hope you weren't too upset about us not coming," he said. "It was just one of those years." "I saw the picture," I said. There was another pause. Longer this time. "What picture?" he asked, but I heard the guilt slip into his voice. "On Facebook or whatever you call it," I said. "You and Laura and Noah. Her parents. Her sister. All our family together this year. It looked very nice." He exhaled. "Mom, that was her family, you know. Her mom's been sick, and it was last minute, and..." "You told me it wasn't a good time," I said quietly. "You said the house was a mess. That you were too stressed for visitors. You didn't have to lie to me, Michael. You could have just said you were choosing to be there instead of here." "I wasn't lying," he said, but the word sounded weak. "I mean, I don't know. It's complicated." "It is not that complicated," I replied. "You made a choice. People do that all the time." We were both silent for a moment. I could feel him retreating behind his defenses. If I pushed harder, he would argue. If I cried, he would feel trapped. I had done both of those things before. This time, I did something different. Michael, I said, I love you. That has never changed. But I need you to understand something. I am not a piece of furniture you can store away and take out when you feel like it. I am your mother. I have feelings. I saw that picture, and it hurt me more than you seem to realize. I'm sorry, he said. The word sounded unfamiliar in his mouth, like a coat he did not wear often. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom. I know you didn't wake up and decide, how can I hurt my mother today? I said. But you did hurt me. And I have to decide what to do with that. What does that mean? He asked. It means, I said, that I am going to stop waiting by the phone for invitations that may or may not come. I am going to live my life. If you want me in yours, you are welcome to call, to visit, to invite. But I will not beg for a seat at the table anymore. Online or otherwise. He was quiet. So you're mad at me, he said finally. I am hurt, I answered. Madness passes. Hurt sits in the chair you saved for it. I don't want you to be hurt, he whispered. Then learn from this, I said gently. That's all I ask. After we hung up, I felt strangely lighter. The sadness was still there, but it was not a weight pressing down on my chest. It was more like a stone I had set down on the table and finally looked at from all sides. That night, I wrote a letter. Not a will. Not instructions. Just a letter to myself. You are allowed to choose, I wrote. You are allowed to need yourself too. I did not know then how things would change between my son and me. I only knew one thing for certain. I was done living like a person cropped out of other people's pictures. Winter passed, slow and gray. I kept going to the quilting circle. I went back to church more regularly. I volunteered once a week at the library, putting away children's books with sticky covers and bent pages. I began to recognize faces who were glad to see me, even if they did not share my blood. Michael called occasionally. Our conversations were shorter but more honest. He asked about my quilting projects, my doctor's visits, the women at church. Sometimes he apologized again, in small, clumsy ways. Once, he said, Noah misses you. He asked why we didn't go down for Thanksgiving. I told him we were with Grandma Janet instead. He said, but Grandma Lydia is Grandma too. I felt that sentence settle deep inside me like a warm stone. I'm glad he remembered, I said. I think about that picture a lot, Michael admitted. You were right. I didn't think how it would look to you. That's the trouble with pictures, I said. They freeze a moment and forget everyone outside the frame. Spring crept in, soft as a cat. The days grew longer. My little plant on the windowsill sprouted new leaves. One Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Mom, Michael said, Noah has a school break coming up. He asked if we could visit you instead of going skiing with Laura's family. Would that be okay? The old Lydia would have said, of course. Any time. I'll cook everything, I'll sleep on the sofa, whatever you need. She would have flung herself into preparation like a woman trying to prove she deserved to be chosen. The woman holding the phone that day paused. I would like that, I said. But I can't do big trips and big meals the way I used to. If you come, it needs to be simple. You can stay in the motel near the church. We'll have one meal here. No big production. Just time. I think we can handle simple, he said. When they arrived a few weeks later, I watched from my window as their car pulled up. Noah climbed out first, taller again, all elbows and enthusiasm. He waved up at my building even before he saw me. Grandma, he shouted in the hallway. When I opened the door, he hugged me so hard I almost lost my balance. Behind him stood Michael and Laura. They both looked nervous, The way people look when they are stepping into a room where they once broke something. "Hi, Mom," Michael said. "Hello, Laura," I replied. "Come in." The visit was not perfect. Noah knocked over a lamp. Laura fussed about crumbs. Michael checked his phone more often than I liked. But there were also small, quiet miracles. Noah showed me a school project where he had drawn a family tree. My name was there, written in his uneven letters. Not at the edge. Not in smaller print. Right there with everyone else. After dinner, simple soup, bread, and a pie I bought from the bakery because I did not need to prove that I could still bake, Michael lingered while Laura took Noah for a walk. "Mom," he said, staring at his hands, "I've been thinking about what you said. About not begging for a seat at the table. I didn't realize how often I made you do that. I'm sorry." I looked at him. His hair was thinner now. There were lines at the corners of his eyes that had not been there when he first left home. He was still my boy, underneath all that. "I can't change that picture," he said. "The one from Thanksgiving. But I brought you something." He pulled a photo from his wallet. It was small, printed, not glowing on a screen. In it, Noah stood in my kitchen from that afternoon, holding up his lopsided drawing of us together, a tall figure and a shorter one, with matching smiles. "It's not all our family," Michael said, "but it's a start." I took the photo carefully. My hands did not shake this time. "Thank you," I said. He looked up, eyes damp. "I want to do better, Mom. I can't promise I'll never be selfish or stupid again. But I don't want you to feel like a burden. Not ever. I can't promise I'll never be hurt again," I told him. "But I can promise you this, I will not disappear quietly. If something hurts me, I will say it. Not to punish you, but to protect myself." "That seems fair," he said. That night, after they went back to the motel, I stood in my small living room and looked around. The plant on the windowsill was green and full. My books were stacked neatly. On the fridge, I pinned Noah's drawing with a magnet shaped like a heart. Next to it, I placed the photograph Michael had given me. My phone lay face down on the table. For once, I did not care whether it lit up. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at the table with only one chair pulled out, not because no one wanted to sit there, but because, in that moment, I wanted the space to belong just to me. As I sipped, I thought about that old picture, the one that had broken my heart. I realized it did not own me anymore. It was just proof of a time when my son did not understand my worth. Now we were slowly taking new pictures, the kind that did not need captions to explain who belonged. Growing older, I have learned this: you cannot force your children to see you as you once were. But you can insist on seeing yourself clearly. You can choose not to live on the edge of other people's lives, waiting to be invited in. You can be kind and still keep your dignity. If this story touched your heart, you can like this video, leave a comment, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. If you've ever felt treated like a burden, my next story may speak to you even more. And if you'd like more stories like this, you're always welcome to subscribe to this channel, Lydia's True Stories.